Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Nina Williams in Depth. I'm your host, Friendly Tree, and today I want to talk about Nina's move called Betrayer. This is an awesome move, and it has some very unique properties for this game. So, let's check our settings and get into it. I think we're just going to change the health gauge, and that's it. Why is it called Betrayer? Well, I don't really know. It's a cool move. She's an assassin. It's kind of a sneaky attack, a dirty attack, I guess, going based on the animation. But it's definitely a move worth using if you can, in the right situation. We can see here the input is qcb+1+4, and then you can see after here we've got Twisted Nightmare that says it's performed during Betrayer, and then moves that are performed during Twisted Nightmare, and then Arm Break, which is performed during Betrayer or Backhand Slap, and then two moves that can go during here. So this tells us that it's got a chain, it's a multi-throw with multiple options after it, okay? So this is a throw, it's the beginning of a multi-throw where the opponent is forced into a 50-50 game. This is genuinely 50-50 because there are two options at the start and then two options afterwards, so there's a 50% chance of breaking it after the initial one. Now as it's a 1+4 input, this is where I really have to suggest mapping your buttons. We use the 1+4 input for reverse ivory cutter and ivory cutter too, so I usually have it as my left bumper, which is the top right button on my stick, and I recommend you do the same because the last thing you want to do is try and do this move, that's Betrayer by the way, and accidentally get this move or this move. Both moves that are launch punishable on block, of course. So we don't want to get that. Oh, and we don't want to get that. So make sure you got a button mapped so that you get this. Betrayer looks like this. You can see it's 12 frame startup with only one active frame, and it leaves them +6 in a crouching position, which is very nice. The other thing I need to talk about with this move, I mentioned unique properties. If we put the opponent through escape, you see me do something like this, it's automatically breaking it. Oops. Oh my god. Something like this, it's automatically breaking it. So every other throw she has, breaking, not this, because it is an unbreakable throw. No one can break this throw. The only way to get around it is to make it width, and because it's a high, of course they can duck. So that's the easiest way to make this move width, by making it duck. Or having the opponent duck. Otherwise, they eat it. It's not much damage, it's only 15 damage. I mean, the same as an 11 frame punish, or while standing 4, but it's more about the advantage you get. Okay, range wise, it's not amazing. Some people joke that it has negative range, but you can see she does actually move forward a little bit. So if we start at range 2, we end at range 2.1, or 2.17. So we're settling here, we're around 2, we go forward a little bit there. So she does actually advance a tiny bit with this move. The back sway on its own, that's kind of what does it, isn't it? But yeah, so it doesn't have negative range, but in saying that, if I do it at range 1.6, it shouldn't work. Oh, it does. I thought it was about range 1.5. Okay, so range 1.6 is going to be range 1.6, 1.7 is going to be about the max point. I'd say more range 1.6 is where you want to do it. No further than here. Yeah, no further than there. It's going to depend on your idle animation and your opponent's idle animation too. And most of the time people aren't just going to be standing still for you either. They're going to be holding back. So generally you want to do it quite close. So good damage, good extensions. Let's look at the tracking quickly, and then we'll go into the extensions. So I'm going to do it off that. That's really not a good idea. I'm going to have to set the AI to doing it, and I'm going to have to step it, because there's no other way that I can get me to actually step it. So backdashing it can be a bit tough, depending on the range, but if you see the animation you can backdash. You can step it either direction too. So it has no tracking, it's not very good range, but hey, it's unbreakable. Oh, and it's a high, but hey, it's unbreakable. So I think that's a fair trade. If it had great tracking, if it had great range, and it were unbreakable, or if it were mid and unbreakable, that would be way too strong, wouldn't it? So I think it's pretty balanced as it is. It's just a shame the range is so poor. Alright, we go on to the extensions now. So the first hit, unbreakable, -6. The next extensions we have, so we got, what are they called? We've got Twisted Nightmare. Now, 2, 1, 1 plus 2, 1 plus 2 plus 3, I find that input very difficult to do. And I know I'm not alone in that, because if you have any errors in there, it doesn't work. What I normally do is I do 1 plus 2, 1 plus 2, 1 plus 2, then press 3, and that works. Like that. So, yeah. So we see we've got the opponent on breaking it now, and it's -3. The important thing about this that I need to point out is compared to is compared to other multi-throws, you take damage there, 5 damage. This one you don't. So you're -3, but you take no damage. Likewise with the arm break. And we know the arm break can also be done from quarter circle forward 1 plus 2. So that's the movement there, the arm break. So we can see that. So if I do, oops, oh yikes, have every button mapped, guys, otherwise you get that happening. If I do this and put the break on, you take damage there, but if I do it from Betrayer, you don't. So it's probably her lowest risk multi-throw starter, because you can do the first chain and it's low risk afterwards, or you can just keep the frame advantage. Going on from there, so the first one I did, the 2, 1, 1 plus 2, 1 plus 2 plus 3, Twisted Nightmare, that's a 2 break. So if you do that, the opponent matches 2, they'll break that. The arm break is a 1 break. It's 1, 3, 2, 1. And with that input, we know it's a 1 break, but they have no visual to tell which is which. So it's not until they see it that they can tell. So we've got a 1 or a 2 break there. And if we look at Twisted Nightmare, we've got Neck Crusher, and we've got Leg Stretch Arm Lock. So once again, we've got a 1 break and a 2 break. So first off, I'm going to go, oops, we've got that off, so, oops. Okay, 60 damage leaves them in a good position, plus 3. If we do that again, and we make the opponent break it, I hope I got that right. No damage. No damage again. Isn't that great? But you're left -3. Then if we do the other option, we're left +3 again, and in a good position there. But if we, oops, ah, yikes, wrong button. Oh, come on, come on. I just forgot what I was doing. I just forgot what I was doing. Once again, no damage. So that's great. So if you do the Twisted Nightmare route, there's nowhere that you can take damage during that. Now if we go the other route, if we go the arm break route, so you know we can do this one from backhand slap 2. But these two options are a little bit different. We've got a 1 break and a 2 break once again. So the whole way through this, it's either a 1 break or a 2 break. If we look at the double arm break first, so I just forgot the input. Oh yeah, whoops. I just forgot that input. Hold on. Is it? Ah, come on, brain. Why am I forgetting that? Why am I freezing on this? Because it's 3-1. Why must I? Okay. Come on. There we go. There's the double arm break. This leaves us at no frame advantage and in a face down feed up. That's okay. And if we go here, if we go opponent throw break again, we'll take damage. We take 5 damage and we're on -3. That's sort of the trend here. So a lot of the time you'll take 5 damage if you take damage. And if they break it, you're on -3. Now if we go to the other option, which is the 2 option, the 2-1-3-4 1+2. Yep, falling arm break. We go. There we go, we're +3 and in that side position again. A lot of damage too. And if we do this again, I just forgot the input. Break it, -3, take 5 damage, okay? So on this side, if they break either option, you take 5 damage, so you need to take that into consideration. And the Oki's a little bit different depending on what you do there. But anyway, that's the properties of this, and I've really got to use that map button. You keep seeing me do it and drop it like that. So it's really important that you have a mapped button for this input, or you don't have fat fingers and thumbs like me. Okay, I think that's everything we need to go through with the properties of this move for now. So, onward and upward to application. Alright, how do we apply Betrayer into our game plan? Well, that's that can be pretty tough sometimes, especially when it comes to a slow, because like I said, it's 32 frame. So if you're doing a 32 frame move, you've got to be very careful. By the way, that was broken because that was on the side, because it's not a Betrayer if it's done on the side, it's just a normal throw. But front on, of course, it's Betrayer and it's unbreakable. So what we want to do is we want to use this move in situations where they're not going to duck, where it's not too telegraphed. Obviously from a backsway, you can do anything you want really. So they're a fool if they're going to be ducking the whole time unless you've conditioned them to duck. So you generally want to use options that make them more likely to stand up before you use a Betrayer. And then you throw it out. But +6, I mean, it's good, but it's not much damage, and a lot of the time you're better enforcing doing, you know, a mid or a low where you're at least getting more damage and a similar situation. Because of course with a throw, whiff recovery isn't the best, so it can be quite risky too. So that's where you can use it more on in a defensive manner. So for example, we can take advantage of the backsway, so we can avoid things like a down forward 1 there in a way that we might not typically, unless we're like sidestepping. But what we could do is we can use a backsway here, and you'll find in a case like this, it's kind of hard to whiff punish with a launch. You can do it, but if you're unsure, you've got that time to sort of hesitate and confirm. And that's a good situation to use Betrayer in my opinion. When you backsway something, that's kind of hard to whiff punish. Of course you've got to be careful with what you backsway. So for example, you can't just do that for anything and then try and Betrayer, because you can see you've got things like this where you may be able to backsway it, but the opponent is not in the right position. So, and in that option, I mean, that's a big option that you can easily whiff punish, can't you? You can do whatever you want there. But it's just to sort of say, you don't use it in every scenario like that. But it's good, especially if you're hesitating, if you're unsure, you can use that little bit of extra time to confirm. And often it's sort of that poke pressure tools that characters might use, you can use it there. So that's how I'd use it in a neutral sense. I'd try and bait a whiff and use it on something small. It's more for punishing the small whiffs. You don't really want to be using it against the big things, where you can get a greater reward, but you still could as long as they're not in a crouching state or an airborne state or something. Okay, let's talk about applying the move on hit. So the move itself is +6, and that's amazing, and they're crouching. So at +6, if you do anything 15 frame, there's not much they can do, is there? And they're crouching, so they can only sidestep up. So if they challenge you in any way, you can get... Whoops, not that. You can get not that. Huh. I'm doing my down for 3 too early. You can sort of confirm, you can do what you want. You've got a lot of frames to play with. So you can enforce a pretty strong mix-up here. And yeah, because they're crouching, except for a tick jab, they're probably going to be doing an 11 frame, which means you can do anything 16 frameless lower and you'll probably win. So down forward 1+2 is also a good option here, and it can wall splat and get you into a mix-up. And I mean, hey, you're going 15 damage, 30 damage, and then you've got into a mix-up. So it may seem like a lot of opportunities, but it's a good way to sort of enforce and continue your pressure. And if you're at the wall, you can imagine that's a lot scarier too, isn't it? Yeah. So that's if you do it at the start. Now, a local player in my scene has talked about the potential of multi-throws and not only using the multi-throw to create damage, but not using the multi-throw to try and catch somebody pressing buttons. So for example, I could start off, I do that, I could pester with it, try and get this done a lot, and I keep doing the same option until they're in a situation where they're going to autopilot. Then suddenly what I do is I just do that, and then I do a launch after it. Because they're mashing 1 trying to break it, or mashing 2 trying to break it, or whatever, and now suddenly I've got a counter hit launch. It's low risk, it's guaranteed, and in the situation of worst case scenario they block it, but best case scenario they're still mashing and they get counter hit launched. Because if they're holding down, of course, that move won't launch them, but it will beat any button they press there. So it's a good situation, it's a good option. So if you can try and get the opponent to press buttons there, you're gonna win. But a lot of the time you're not, and that's where you can just enforce a mix-up of sorts. And it's still good, of course. There's nothing wrong with just enforcing a mix-up, but if you can try and get them to feel they need to press buttons there, it's even stronger. And the fact that you can do that and you've got no real risk, you're just left at -3. -3 isn't a bad place to be in, really. It's still, you can use an evasive tool, you can step, you can do something. And a lot of people don't bother to learn the frames on a break like that. They'll probably assume they're positive, but they won't know how positive they are. Yeah, so that's a good way you can use it there. The next thing we need to talk about is actually the throw extensions. So, ending just here, you're +4, but you're too far away. There's not really anything you do there. So you're not really going to end just on the arm break. Or the Twisted Nightmare. I wouldn't really end on the Twisted Nightmare, but you could because you're closer there, you're in a better position. But if we did the arm break... Come on. We end here. You may see we're neutral here, but we're still in a pretty good position. And the reason I say we're in a pretty good position is because while we're neutral, they're grounded, so there's nothing fast they can do. So for example, if I do a get up low kick, oh, come on. And then I do a forward 3. And I get, sorry. If I do the timing right, this will counter hit them. You gotta get used to that timing, don't you? I love it when I try and demonstrate something on these videos and it just goes completely wrong. There we go. So that'll beat any option they do, really. I mean, most options they do, and it'll hit them grounded. But another thing you could do here is you could just go for an up forward 2 and try and confirm. As long as you're not too slow. You do have the frames, I swear. That works. That works well. Yeah. So you've got a few options there, and that's just from one of the options. And obviously they've got a lot to think about here. They've got a lot to focus on when you're doing these. So let's look at the other arm break option. So here we left +3 and we're on this side. So this is scary because the get up low will launch us, but it also means that the low is launch punishable itself. Oops, but anyway, you can while standing to it. I don't know why I did that. I wanted more damage than I was entitled to. Boom. There we go. So that's one thing. But you're at +3 in that position, which means you still have the frame advantage. And they're grounded. They don't have as many options. So down back 3 will counter hit launch them. They do anything. So that's a good option there. Whoops, what am I doing? And then you can also use other options, such as the up forward 2. You've got different confirm options you can do here. And, I mean, I'm not going to go into the full detail here, but you can see with the frame advantage, you can explore yourself and see what you can do there. So there are definitely good options. Now, if we go for a back sway option, we can go, what am I talking about? If we go to a betrayer option, like I said, you're in the same position here. The same position as what we just got with, what's it called? With the falling arm break, or more or less. So, with the falling arm break, we are, so they're face down on this side. And with Twisted Nightmare, they're also face down on this side. +3 on both of them. So you've got the same Oki situation you can use there. If we go for this one, we're still +3. Now they're face up. And that face up is quite good. But once again, it's the same situation really, it just means that won't launch us. Alright, got it. So with that +3, we've got the same sort of options we had before. So down back 3, if done right. Ah. Yikes. Ah. I stuffed it up. There we go. So the down back 3 done right will still beat this. Here we go. And then the final option we have, we're also +3, and that is the neck crusher. So in this one they're face down +3 again, so we got the same Oki situation as we had twice before. So you can see how you've got multiple Oki situations, but you've got one that comes up a lot. And it's a pretty good one. As long as you got your timing right, which I don't, then you can mix them up pretty intensely. You can get pretty good damage off it, so it's pretty worth doing a lot of the time. Anyway, that's a bit of a breakdown. If you get it to connect, the follow-ups you can do there. So you can either end on the +6, hoping that you can get them in a situation where they're going to press buttons, or at least put them into a guessing game, or you can continue your throws knowing that the only options where you can even receive damage are from the arm break extensions. You only get 5 damage for each of these. Every other option you can do from Betrayer, you do not take damage. The worst you'll be is -3. Yeah. Okay, let's go to another stage because we need to talk about the application at the wall, and this is where you will mostly see Betrayer being used. Definitely by me, this is the main place that I would use Betrayer. So we'll go to the wall, and it's a common tech catch here. So if we set the AI to tech roll left, and we just do dun 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 dun. If they tech roll either direction, we can catch them with a betrayer. But this doesn't only end at the down foot, so you've got different options you can do here that'll catch, and it'll catch in both directions, by the way. Yeah. So you've got some good options there. Obviously, they can still duck it. I mean, obviously, right? It'd be a bit too good if it was a tech catch and they also could duck it. But that's not the point, because you've still got other things you can mix it up with, because you're in a backsway. So if you think they're going to duck, if you really think they want to duck, you could still do something like that, or even that. And a lot of the time when they duck, they're limiting their movement, so you can still get that too. So that's a big part of the mind game here, and obviously you're only doing the betrayer if they wake up tech roll. That's the main situation you do it, because if they don't, if they do something like a wake up low kick, whoops, come on tree, yeah, you're wasting your turn. If they did something like a spring kick as well, or you're not using this just blindly. You need to confirm what they're doing, and you have the time. You don't have to have the move come out in the fastest frame possible for this situation, but that's how you catch them. Of course, when you're at the wall, it's even scarier because you can splat them. Unfortunately, right, let's remove the crouching and we'll just go stand so they don't block it. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, it does work there. I was going to say, unfortunately, it doesn't catch them there, but it does. For some reason I thought it didn't. Might depend on what end you use, or how late you do it. Like you can see there was a little bit more of a ballerina spin there. Anyway, so it becomes a lot more threatening. I mean, +6 forwards crouch at the wall is terrifying. And then you come on to the fact that they also have to look out for the buttons you press. Like if you want to do an extension or something, and they have to look out for trying to break that or accidentally pressing a button and getting counter hit, it suddenly becomes very terrifying, and it's very oppressive considering all the other pressure that Nina has near the wall. And then you suddenly have not only one guard break, but 2 guard breaks you can use. So the opponent can't just stand there, otherwise they get hit. But if they try and challenge in any way, they're going to get wall splat. So it's a good way to keep your pressure. It's a good lower risk way that you can keep that +6 advantage and continue your pressure at the wall, force them into a mind game, and hope you get that wall splat. Yeah. I guess I'll give another example of where I might use Betrayal, but it's kind of like I talked about with Nina before, but it's more just an example of using the backsway to your advantage, and just the fact that you can access it from backsway. So you can use it as sort of a keep away tool almost. This is the backsway. But like I said, if you're uncertain about being able to whiff punish something, you can use backsway. And you can at least do that to take a turn. So you've got plenty of time, but it's an option you can use as long as you know. So I would use it if I'm hesitating to whiff punish something, because at least then I know I'm getting the frame advantage. And I mean, whoops, wrong one. Actually, what's the max damage? We'll go. If you're playing King's game against him, getting 65 damage there is pretty hefty, isn't it? I mean, it's no combo, but it's close. Alright, so I mean, using it as part of like a Hayashida or just a backsway And then as they approach you, that's really the greatest strength, I think, of this move, outside of using it in Oki at the wall, or just against a very defensive player who's just standing there blocking all the time. It's a good way to break their guard. And if someone can just break normal throws pretty well, suddenly you've got an unbreakable throw. And I've come across a lot of people who go, what, I broke that, that's a 1+2, right? Or that's a 1 break or something. I'm like, nope. Yeah, look at me, and now I'm doing that combo properly. Yikes. Alright, anyway, I think it's time for us to go on to the summary. Nina's Betrayer is a very special throw in this game, particularly for the reason that it's a multi-throw starter that is unbreakable. It has very poor range, and you need to be careful with your inputs so you don't accidentally get a very launch punishable move instead of it. But it leaves them at, deals 15 damage, and it leaves them at -6, or you at +6 with the opponent crouched. It really makes them kneel before you and have to fall victim to a guessing game after it. You can also use the extensions, and you can get a lot of damage by doing these extensions. And these extensions themselves can give you pretty good Oki. So this move can set up pressure, it can create Oki, it can also be used in conjunction with Oki at the wall. So it can be used for tech traps at the wall. I should point out, while it's breakable, it can still be ducked, so you need to be cautious of that. I feel like the best uses of this move are against, after a backsway, after you've evaded a move that you're hesitant to whiff punish, you can use Betrayer. Things like jabs. If you were to make a jab whiff with a backsway, I think Betrayer is a good option there, opposed to something heavier like a big launcher that you've made whiff punish, or just a move that you know has slower recovery and you can launch instead. But even then, if you're hesitant, you can use it, as long as they're not in a jump state or a crouching state, of course. It's great at the wall, it's great catching people teching there, and you can definitely use the threat of the multi-throws afterwards to get people to press buttons, which can give you free counter hit launches or just great pressure afterwards because of you being +6, and there not really being a way for them to challenge you there, with the exception of some characters with invulnerable moves. What else do we need to say about Betrayer? I think it's a great move, although the range is a little bit lacking, but that's okay. We don't want an unbreakable throw to be too overpowered. It's also great as a multi-throw starter, because it's the only route that Nina can take where you have options where to the very end you may not take any damage. So if you're not using this in your gameplay, I suggest you look at how to do it. I hope this video has helped you find a few ways. Do you use it in any other ways in your gameplay? Please let me know, comment below, and I'm excited to hear. Otherwise, or anyway, I'll catch you all next time. Thanks everyone.
You win.
What's done is done.